Welcome to House of Innovation, a podcast where we debunk myth, we put innovation under the microscope, and talk about the real impact of change in organizations. In a business world where innovation is mostly a buzzword, often lacking substance, House of Innovation brings clarity, concrete examples, and voices that make a difference. And talking about voices that make a difference, I'm thrilled to introduce a truly inspiring guest, Antonia Lomer. She is the founder of Disruptive Humans, a platform and philosophy that challenges us to rewire the way we think before life forces us to. Today, she's on a new mission, one that's deeply personal and boldly impactful, transitioning from corporate innovation to social innovation. Through Disruptive Humans, Antonia is challenging her experience and passion into projects that serve society. And one project in particular has caught our attention. It's called Pain Patterns, a grassroots initiative she's built with less than $300, fueled entirely by her time, skills, and network. Hello, Antonia, and welcome to House of Innovation. Thank you for being my guest today. There are a lot of things that we want to discuss. But first, I would like to start by asking you to give us a bit of the background that you have on innovation.
Hi, Alexandra, and thank you so much for the invitation. I'm really happy to have this conversation today with you. And about my background, I was actually thinking about this question a couple of days ago. And I was thinking, how children would introduce themselves. Back when we were kids, we would just say our names. We would say our maybe favorite color. We would say what is our favorite toy. And that would be it. And now, as adults, we have all this amazing background. We have all these amazing titles. And we have so much to say about ourselves in terms of profession, career, successful projects, family, side projects, and so on. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to tell you a bit about myself and my background, but I want to do it in a different way because we're talking about innovation. And I was thinking that we can innovate even about this small thing, like introducing ourselves. So I want to first tell you that I'm a disruptive human. Okay. And to me, being disruptive means actually creating impactful change and implementing disruptive change successfully before being forced to. And that's something I've done for most of my life, intentionally and passionately. And this is what I do also in my professional life and also in my personal life. And this is how I think I come to work in innovation and to be so passionate about innovation. And I also want to share that throughout my career, throughout my professional career, what that meant, being a disruptive human, was actually throughout roles like operational excellence, digital transformation, innovation, and mostly in the tech industry. But overall, I was being a disruptive human in all of these roles throughout many different industries and companies.
This is how I met you. And I was intrigued by the way you were saying disruptive human. I really liked how you talked about yourself and how you talked about us as humans, that we can indeed be disruptive in a very positive and impactful way in our lives and in our societies. And that's why also we're going to talk today about social innovation, a topic that I haven't touched before in my podcast. And I'm really excited to bring this topic to everyone's attention. I also strongly believe in the power and meaning and change and positive that social innovations can bring, but we'll get there. We'll get there very, very soon. I don't want to go there until I'm asking you a little bit about your background and experience with innovation in the corporate environment, because I know you've been there, you've done that, and you have a lot of insights for people that are listening to us, and many of them are in the corporate environment right now. So what is in corporate and how did that develop for you?
So my experience, I would say, first of all, it was rather unique. So imagine in the past 10 years, I didn't have any role that was ever in the company before. So all the roles I held were new positions that were distinctively proposed and that I held for the first time in the company or in the team or in that specific department. So I don't remember even how it is to do a handover and to pick up things from someone and to understand what was done before, because I always had to create things from scratch. So one of the first roles that I took actually in that sense was an operational excellence role with Vodafone. And that for me was a very new experience because I was coming previously from Oracle, where I had firsthand interactions with technology. But the telecom industry actually took it even further than I imagined. For me, this represented a lot of enthusiasm because I got the opportunity to test technologies firsthand. So we had projects of machine learning back in 2016 when using even new technologies like artificial intelligence, when people didn't really know about artificial intelligence.
In 2016, we weren't even digital, so
Exactly.
A lot of companies were struggling to be online.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I think it was the beginning of digital transformation as a concept.
Yeah.
So it was absolutely fascinating. And even though the role was not necessarily focused on innovation, I was working with innovation on a daily basis because we were working with new technologies, trying to figure out how to optimize them for the users, how to make the most out of them, and how to make sure that the network is stable and it's prepared for that technology to be released. And it was really interesting to be there in front line, even when we moved from 4G to 5G. So that was a really big shift. People didn't really understood, I think, at that point, the impact. But being able to watch a video on your phone with normal speed, just like you would on your laptop, was a tremendous work behind to prepare the network. Mm-hmm. So for me, all of these things were fascinating. And having this experience with innovative technologies really got me hooked on them. So I was like, oh, I want to do this more. This is what I want to do. So I came up even with ideas, with innovative ideas on how to use these technologies maybe in a different way. And I got into digital transformation from that point onwards. And I have to say, maybe a not so innovative project, but a project that was really close to my heart was something combined. As we mentioned before, innovation is also about people. Mm-hmm. So one of the initiatives that I had at one point was around digital transformation, but had a human or environmental impact because I proposed to move for the first time from physical signatures to digital signatures. And that was huge because when we made the calculations, we realized that there were tons of trees that we could save just by doing a simple implementation for one type of document. Mm-hmm. And that had a ripple effect afterwards. So it's small things like that that I think can be considered innovative. And I really encourage everybody to think about the little things. Mm-hmm. Because nowadays, everybody, when we say innovation, everybody is thinking of Elon Musk or really outrageous innovations and really technical projects or initiatives. But I'm trying to empower everybody to think that they can be innovative. And it's with small things like this as well. Mm-hmm. So again, this was a really exciting time when I was working at Vodafone. And I did a lot of things there, even from mobile applications internally that then afterwards got expanded to some clients, to all kinds of automations that we had to do, again, for the clients, but sometimes also internally for the teams. And with that experience, I then moved forward to Accenture, where I got into a different kind of area. I started as operational excellence. So again, really focused on continuous improvement in general. But the first client I worked for was a technical client. And I have to say, there is a really funny story here, because one of the initiatives I came up with the client was an initiative on the recruitment side. We were trying to help recruitment teams to make their work a little bit more efficient. And LinkedIn was the main platform that the talent acquisition team was using. So a crazy idea at that moment was actually to automate the work of those recruiters with a robot that we built using UiPath platform. However, because this client was technical and we had access to a representative from LinkedIn, we actually got in a meeting with that person and we said, this is what we are trying to do. We already built an MVP. We had a prototype. We were able to test it and show it to them. And they were like, you know what? Actually, we're building some kind of a robot that will actually go against what you are building now. So LinkedIn now has actually a system that they're able to use in order to track if someone is using a robot to recruit people from LinkedIn or to send messages or to do that very fast. But LinkedIn really appreciated the idea and they said, this is actually a really interesting idea and a very interesting automation. So we might be able to pick it up and sell it as our own service. So no need for you guys to follow through because we're going to pick this up. Okay. So it's projects like this that I got to do at Accenture, and it was a really exciting time for me. And aside from this, I got to start working with startups, and that was a very different world. We were thinking at one point, where else can we look for innovation? Because just looking inside the company was not enough, especially for big clients, or especially when you really wanted to go above and beyond, and you really wanted to explore the art of the possible. So I can share one example. There's one startup that it's still on the market. It's a startup from the Netherlands, and I heard about it at an online webinar. And I think at that point there was a lady, some director. She's not working anymore at that bank, but she was working at a really important bank. And she shared about the information about this startup. And this was a startup that was using neuroscience. And this is back in maybe 2019. Mm-hmm. And they are using neuroscience in a very interesting way. They studied actually teams, football teams, and also the airline surveillance teams. So basically, the people that spend their time in the control tower, and they make sure that everybody lands and in safety conditions. So I got in touch with them because they were doing different types of reports on how people actually are. They were doing some kind of skill report, but their skill report was based on the neuroscience of the brain, and actually how can people use their natural abilities best, but in the specific role that they have. So what they found was actually that different players, for example, in the football team, have very different abilities. Basically, the people that have to attack the other team, they have very different skills and their brain works very differently than the one that are mostly in defense. And it's the same even for the teams that are in the tower of control in aviation. They have very different skills and their brain works very differently than people doing very different kind of jobs. So with this information, they were able to design some games that you would be able to take online. And those games would actually show you a different kind of map of your brain. So I reached out to them and I said, how about we use this for when we want to hire people? Because you can map a job depending on the different types of skills and abilities you need, but you don't really have a map of the person's brain. And it's very hard to do that in a simple interview. So that's a very interesting pilot that we were able to do with them. It was a lot of work to prepare, but it was at a point in time when automation and digital transformation was really taking place at levels I've never seen before. And jobs were transforming pretty much as what's happening now with AI. Jobs are going to transform. They're going to look very different in the future. So how do you prepare for that? And this was one of the pilots we did at that point in time.
Love it. I love it. And it got me thinking to one of the chapters that I'm writing in my book right now. And that chapter is about recruiting for innovation teams. Because people who are successful in innovation teams have a very different profile than the traditional, let's say, employees of large corporations. And it's in a way difficult, or it was for me difficult many years in a row to have a guideline or to have something that I can compare against and say, okay, this person will do well and this person not so well. I mean, about the intent and I believe the desire that every hiring manager has to bring in the team people that are going to be successful in that role. And what you are saying is, wow, I mean, I have to search them and how can I get some inspiration for my book and maybe help others and spread the news? Because this is at least one area where it's a bit more difficult to recruit and find the right talent than maybe in the more traditional roles that have a track record of, okay, this is what we would need. You don't probably hire the most creative person in operations. Maybe you hire someone who's more structured or in accounting. We already know those things. But there are also new roles, like you were mentioning, maybe with artificial intelligence that are going to be changed and adapted. And I mean, the hiring process is going to be totally different.
Yeah, I think so. And I have to say, this is also something on my mind right now. I'm actually preparing a workshop where the purpose is to compare artificial intelligence a little bit with emotional intelligence, even if those are very different. But it helps me understand how can we prepare ourselves for the jobs of tomorrow. And for example, right now I'm actually working on a matrix that would help people look at the jobs or the roles or the activity that they're doing right now in a very different way. Like, what is the impact or what is the level of involvement of emotional intelligence, for example, in a task? Will this be able to be done, or should it be done by AI? And then what is left for me as a human? Where should I build my next competitive advantage? Or what types of skills should I upgrade or upskill myself? How should I prepare myself for the future of my job or of my role or the career that I want to pursue?
That's also a very nice topic. And when you finish the workshop or you run it and you have some conclusions, I would love to have you back and share it in a larger, a broader audience. So,
of course, happy to.
well, Antonia, I would like us to move to the topic that I was also mentioning earlier that hasn't been touched in this podcast, and it's the right time to do it. And I'm for myself as a takeaway, I should do it more often, and really talk about these social innovations that you were chatting with me earlier. Maybe are not that highly documented. There isn't so much awareness. We talk about, you mentioned Elon Musk, and maybe we talk about Tesla. Oh my God, the stocks are going up, the stocks are going down.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't talk that much about social innovations and the people that are doing something extraordinary behind these initiatives. And these initiatives are really changing lives. Maybe they are not the most financially interesting initiatives, but from a human perspective and the society perspective, I think we should give them much higher credit than it's happening right now. So tell me, how was your transition from those great projects, experiences from the corporate environment towards social innovation?
I thought about this, and I'm going to use a French expression. For me, it was le hasard, how the French would say it. It was completely random. And about 1 year ago, I was taking a course of business creativity and innovation at IMD. And it's a sprint course. It takes about a month. However, you have to work on a project. And for the first time in my life, I thought about a personal idea. And I said, you know what? This time I won't go for the project in terms of something really professional or really related to the job or to the career. I want to test things out, and I want to experiment a little bit with a personal idea. And this is how I started. And actually, the idea in the project, even the problem statement I started from, changed dramatically about 4 times. And this is interesting with social innovation, is that you have this flexibility and you have all of this freedom to play around with it, because the focus and the target of the project is not a financial goal, is not profitability like you would have it in corporate innovation. It's rather solving a problem for the good of the people, for the good of a community, or for the well-being of a society.
So basically, when we talk in innovation, we say a lot about this customer centricity and being interested in the problem of the customer. But very often in the corporate setting, that is being filtered by the profitability of an initiative and how scalable that is. But I was also having this thought that when it comes to social innovation, it's always about the person that you are trying to solve. So all these methodologies that we talk about in innovation are probably so much well suited for social innovations, where you really get to have the heart and soul of the project hooked on the person in front of you.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on this one. And I've seen that in reality. And one of the examples that was shown to us during this course, we didn't necessarily label it as social innovation, but it stuck with me at that point. So it's Wikipedia, right? So Wikipedia, I think it was the biggest social innovation in the history, because it didn't started from a corporation initially. It was a project aimed to have a pool of knowledge being shared by people using the internet. And you didn't have an incentive or a financial incentive if you would become a contributor to Wikipedia. And it's still the case today, right? So Wikipedia is free. They work based on donations. They have a foundation behind. So it's pretty much non-profit. But initially, when it started, for me, it kind of checks all the boxes of a social innovation project, because the purpose was basically to have a pool of knowledge, of shared knowledge, that people can access at any point in time, And yes, they used the technology at the time, the internet, but in a very smart and people-centric, human-centric way.
Are there any other differences that you've noticed between the corporate innovations or maybe startups and these social innovations?
Yeah, so I would say the first one is related to purpose and target. So the objective of a social innovation project is the problem statement that you start from, compared with corporate innovation, where your objective is something financial, is the return of investment, is the profitability, the growth of the company or the organization. So I think this is first the major difference. And of course, there are multiple other differences, like, for example, the stakeholders. With corporate innovation, you have definitely an organizational setup. You have you have a really structured way. There are multiple people involved. You have specific resources, specific budget you are dedicating for innovation, and so on. Whilst with social innovation, you have a very different pool of stakeholders. It can be people just like you and me that maybe do this, or they get involved on as a side project. They have another different day-to-day job. It could be NGOs that are getting involved. It could be different communities, foundations, associations, and so on. I feel like there is a little bit more diversity in social innovation than with corporate innovation. And I've seen there is also a hybrid type of innovation. It's the corporate social innovation. And this is a bit rare, but it exists. And I can give you an example here. And it's usually a combination between CSR teams, so teams that are really driven for corporate social responsibilities, and innovation teams. So they usually come together and they come up with something great. But in the end, the company is the one reaping the benefits, right? So they see an impact in the numbers, in the financial numbers usually. And one example, I can share this with you because it's a project I really, really loved. It's a project from Vodafone. It's actually in Romania, and they're using drones to be able to help mountain rescue teams. So whenever they have a rescue mission, maybe it's about saving tourists, saving people that are stuck in hard to access areas. So they use drones to be able to map out the area better and really focus their resources on what can make an impact faster and better. So this is an example of corporate social innovation, but I haven't seen many projects like this. I think it's usually corporate innovation, maybe some social innovation, but corporate social innovation, I feel like it's very rare. And it's only a specific type of organization that can really access it, because you have to have the resources, you have to be able to allocate people's time to it. And not all companies can afford to do that.
Well, I see a lot of companies saying they don't have the time or the resources to allocate to innovation. So I think, yes, corporate social innovation is maybe something we would like to see more, not there yet, but a great food for thought on how to use maybe internal expertise on innovation and connect it with the CSR. This is again a longer topic for a longer podcast episode, but CSR's teams have great ideas, and usually they work with customer problems, or they work with problems that people have and that they are trying to solve. So the beginning is good. They are focused on the customer problem, maybe not in a very documented way or innovative way or design thinking way, but they are starting naturally from a problem that they are trying to solve and adding a bit of innovativeness to the solution, which I see now being a lot on the area of, okay, some companies plant trees, other companies give money, other companies buy equipment. So there is nothing innovative there. It's usually placing some money, using some money for the benefit of others. Ordinary. But how big could those money be amplified with intelligence and with innovation? So yeah, we're going to park that, but this is something to think about in the future. Well, now let's move to your idea, because I really want to get into the deeps of of your social innovation. What is it about? What are you trying to solve, Antonia?
So my project, it's about women's health. And the solution I came up with initially was how to better and faster diagnose polycystic ovary syndrome and endometriosis. Because currently it can take up to 11 years even to diagnose endometriosis. So 1 year ago, I started from the idea of building a DNA kit, pretty much similar with the DNA kits that you use today, like 23andMe, MyHeritage, and use them for fun, just to see if you have ancestors somewhere else in the world, and so on. And the idea changed very much from that point onwards, because, and I used some of the tools that were presented in this business creativity and innovation course, zooming in, zooming out, and I found a lot of roadblocks, because my studies are, of course, not in the medical domain. I'm not a medical researcher. So I thought about, okay, I need to go even simpler and simpler. So I started to slice and dice the idea, to have conversations with people, with a lot of women, a lot of doctors, a lot of actually medical researchers, especially here in Switzerland. I was able to find people that really gave me advice. And not only that, but really explained to me how a medical research would go about that. What would be the resources needed? How you would start, if you would be able even to get to a result. Because sometimes it can take, 5, 10, 20 years. And unfortunately, you don't get to develop something, but you follow your hypothesis. So I went through this and I used design thinking methodologies even with my project. I picked up the feedback, I redesigned, reprototyped everything. So the second phase of the project was actually, okay, this DNA test kit is not something feasible. What about self-diagnosis tool? And then the idea moved to building a device, or using a device that already exists, pretty much like the TENS machines that simulate, the muscles to contract. So I said, okay, what about if this device, instead of doing that, it's actually measuring the level of pain? Because what I found in my conversations was that pain was something very common to both endometriosis and both the polycystic ovary syndrome. So I said, okay, then I'll use this information in order to work on the new concept. And what I did, of course, as an innovator, I started to also experiment. So I actually bought a device that does specific this. It simulates the muscle to contract. and also had more conversations with different doctors to understand if there is a way to actually map out and have a pattern of pain, because this would be able to reveal maybe faster a diagnosis for either endometriosis or the polycystic ovary syndrome. And unfortunately, my experience with the machine was very uncomfortable and really unpleasant. So I said, you know what, I cannot actually start to conduct research of this kind with women, because it's going to be really unpleasant. So nobody's going to want to go through this. And at the same time, the feedback that I got from this experiment was not about how my pain would map out to a specific pain of endometriosis or the polycystic ovary syndrome, but rather what I learned about myself is my threshold of pain. And with some of my friends that tried the machine and that agreed to try the machine, we all learned the same thing about the level of our threshold of pain. But it was very hard to compare this kind of pain with the pain that you would get with endometriosis or with the polycystic ovary syndrome. So I said, okay, it's very interesting. I found out I actually have a very low threshold of pain. I knew I had a very low threshold of pain. I just didn't know how low it is. So imagine, as a fun fact, on this machine you have, you can go from 0 to 100. And for me, even with the massage program, it was very hard to go past 20.
Wow. Okay.
So that was really useful information for me. And this was for all my friends, actually, all the women that tested the machine, was the fact that, okay, now I kind of understand my threshold of pain. So I said, okay, this was a very nice experiment. I'm taking the lessons learned and I'm trying to actually change a little bit the way I'm looking at the problem. And with this feedback, I said, okay, building a device and taking, this pain as measurement, it's not going to work for the moment. And I incorporated also very interesting feedback that I got from men. This was a category I excluded initially from all of my assumptions and from all my research because, right, this is a problem that affects women. So if they are the client, right, if we're trying to solve for them, it's them that I'm talking with the most. However, I was talking with potential investors, men, and instead of focusing on investment, they were actually really curious about the illnesses. And they were like, I'm really interested to know what I can do further on. How can I help my sister or my daughters? What is it that I can do whenever I see women confronting themselves with these illnesses? And for me, that was a very interesting feedback. So again, zooming in and zooming out, this was a category of people I completely ignored for the project and for the process that I was in. So I said, okay, I'm going to take this feedback actually, and I'm going to see how I will be able to integrate it. And I actually stayed with this idea for a while because I didn't know how to use it for several weeks. I was like, I feel like this is super valuable and important information, but I have no idea how to use it. And then a different opportunity came up. I did an entrepreneurship course here. And one of the professors at my course said that there is an opportunity with the University of Geneva. And one of the teachers there, they're teaching a class at Masters about how to develop web applications, low code, no code. And they said they're looking for startups that are, really at the beginning. And basically, they want to give the students the opportunity to create something that actually is practical. and why not do it for startups? Because this would be free of charge. And I said, amazing, this is a great opportunity because startup life is pretty much like this. And I went there and I pitched for students in front of a class of students. And several of them wanted to work with me, but eventually I worked with a team of 3 students. And they developed the website, of course, low code, because that was the class. And I got really interesting feedback from them, because that was the moment I was able to correlate the feedback I had from men with what they also shared. Because I had in the team, there were 2 guys and 1 lady. And they were telling me, what about if there would be something that we could use as men in order to understand how to help, or basically just to understand the situation, the pain of our female friends and family. And together with them, actually, that was the moment when I managed to think about some kind of assessment for pain that not only women would be able to take, but it would be also men. So, for example, a woman would be able to ask some questions, just like you would do now, let's say with a chatbot, and really explain and tell us some details, share some details about your pain. At the end, you would understand if your pain is more into the spectrum of menstrual cramp, which is normal, or is it more a menstrual pain, which is not normal. So that's a red flag for you to take action and maybe go see a doctor, investigate the matter, maybe have some tests. And at the same time, a male friend, a husband, a brother would be able to take the assessment, share some of the symptoms that he sees from his perspective, and then at the end receive a similar answer, in the sense of, maybe this is menstrual cramps and it's normal, or you know what, this seems to be more like menstrual pain, this is not normal, you should advise your female friend or mother, sister, whoever it is, to take action for her health and maybe go see a doctor, go take some tests, and so on. So this was a very interesting shift of perspective. And I think it's about these kind of hazard, again. It's random experiences that you have, which don't really happen in the corporate environment, that social innovation is able to really thrive. So I went from something really technical, really medical, from something that I wouldn't have been able to create, to something that now is very simple. It's a very simple form. It looks at menstrual pain versus menstrual cramps. And the purpose of the project, which is still called pain patterns, because it is related to pain, but the purpose of the project now is to create more awareness between the difference of menstrual cramps versus menstrual pain. The fact that menstrual pain is not normal, and it might be an indicator that something is wrong, not necessarily that it's endometriosis or polycystic ovary syndrome, but it could be something, and women should really take action based on that.
Wow. I loved how you. So first of all, thank you for sharing with us the whole story and your journey, which I would not call a hazard. I mean, you. For me, this is the ideal way on how innovation unfolds, and in what you've talked, and I was able to see how you were diverging and then converging, diverging and converging, and this is what innovation is about: gathering data, making sense of it, gathering, making sense of it, and in a way, letting the project take you where it's meant to take you. That should happen in the corporate environment as well. We should be hooked, let's say, on the problem that we are trying to solve, not on how we want to solve it. You stayed to the problem, you stayed to you remained in the area of focus, what you are trying to solve, but you gave yourself the freedom to solve their problem in whatever way it is possible and it makes sense to the people involved. I also love that you mentioned the man. This is something that we sometimes do. We are so hooked on the persona that we right persona and the only one. When there are so many stakeholders involved in how people make decisions, in how our lives are influenced, and so on, that again, it also happens in the corporate environment. My experience is a lot in the financial services. In the financial services, the person in front of you is rarely the person deciding on the loan, on the insurance, on the bank account, on the vacation, on the spending. I mean, really? And here is also the case. These women are in a partnership. Their partners should be able to assess and to help them and to guide them. So that input is wow and so incredible and so valuable.
And this is something that I learned throughout the journey. So imagine now I'm working on the project for more than a year. The project has transformed very much, but now it's not only about the women. It's actually, so it made me realize that it's a societal problem, right? Because if a woman is incapacitated because of pain, it affects her social life, it affects her family life. Like there are so many repercussions. And those are things that maybe I did not consider, I did not think of in the beginning. But it's with research, with patience, and with a lot of open-mindedness that I was able to listen to the feedback that I was receiving. And I think this is, to go back to what you were saying, that innovative people kind of have a different way of thinking. I think listening is one of the skills that they have, because they are really able to pick up when someone gives you a feedback or when someone tells you something that maybe is very different from your initial assumption. Innovators usually listen very carefully. So when something is different to their way of thinking, to their assumptions, to the idea that they're working on, they listen like it's the most important thing in the world.
Because they are, I mean, not all innovators and not all but the good ones, the ones that succeed, good ones in the sense
Yes.
that they are much more invested in the problem they are trying to solve rather than how they are trying to solve it. And this is something that I see as a bottleneck for many innovation projects. We are not in love with the problem. We are in love with the solution. We are in love in how we would like to make it, how we would like to develop it. Whereas the only constant or the only thing that should matter is the problem and how our solution makes sense to the person that is having that problem.
Yeah.
And I love it that you also, in a way, you downsized. I mean, you started from something DNA kit, which is heavy, intensive research, medical field. I can imagine a lot of people telling you or maybe thinking, why is she doing that? I mean, she's not a doctor, she's not a scientist. What the hell? I mean, DNA kit.
Yes, I can confirm.
Imagine a lot of knowers and people saying you cannot do it. But that, of course, didn't demotivate you, because obviously you are here after 1 year. But you did not have a problem in downsizing the scope, which is excellent, because exactly that, in innovation, we sometimes need to downsize and go to the most simple solution that is helping the customer. And only find that the very simple, basic solution that's helping, we can upgrade. And maybe your idea will go to a DNA kit at some point in time. You never know. But the fact,
exactly,
flexibility of your mind and thinking to downsize or go up, or whatever it takes to solve the problem, that's excellent, and that's something.
There is something. So Duncan Wardle, the former head of innovation from Disney. He has this in his workshops and now in his book. And he says it's very important, and I agree with it 100%. It's very important to know when to use convergent thinking and when to use divergent thinking. And as he states, in the beginning, when you're ideating, when you're looking for a solution, use convergent thinking, use divergent thinking. Like go big, go like nothing is impossible. Everything is possible. Anything can happen. Imagine you have all the resources possible. Like you have no barriers in thinking, in imagining. Basically, use your creativity to the most. And then when you're actually, revising the solutions and the potential list, then yes, you need to use convergent thinking. You need to really understand, okay, can we actually do this? I mean, it's a fabulous idea, but is it possible? What are the restrictions? Can we bypass the restrictions? No, yes, and so on. But I think, yeah, to your point, this is really, really important. And I think this is one of the skills of good innovators. And knowing when to use divergent and convergent thinking. And also, as you mentioned, not necessarily get hooked to the solution. And I see this happening a lot with corporate innovation, especially in the tech industry, because that's where I'm coming from. And nowadays with AI is even more prevalent because it's about how do we use AI to innovate. So it's all about that instead of trying to figure out how do we actually need to solve a problem. Maybe we don't need AI or technology.
I mean, I get a lot of questions like, do you have, Alexandra, a workshop on how to use AI to innovate?
It's fabulous.
So let's start from that and we'll see if it's AI, like you said, if it's human, if it's even worth solving that problem. So
yeah, exactly.
I know that it's there. How can we, I mean, you have this experience and now for 1 year you've been in this social innovation area, in the social innovation field. How can we grow it? How can we encourage other people to start this journey of social innovations? Where do we begin as a society? Where do I begin? I mean, I talk a lot about innovation. How can I encourage someone to go for the social innovation path?
This is, I think, the most important question to ask right now. And there are so many things I want to share about this. So a part of my mission right now is actually to make space for people who don't traditionally see themselves as innovators. So this is something I plan to encourage because if people start believing and have the courage to think of themselves as innovators, then they will have the courage to move from idea to action. We all have ideas. I don't think I've met anyone saying that they didn't have an idea ever, but we don't really act on them. And I think an important way to increase the number of social innovations is to remove the barrier of costs. So just to go back to my story, the investment that I did for this project was mostly my time. So personal energy, personal resources. But in terms of money, I spent less than 300 euros. Because right for the website, I just bought the domain. I had this group of students that created the design. I did buy a machine to test and simulate the pain, the muscle pain. but that was a really small cost. You can buy that off of Amazon or all of these websites. Is not something that fancy. So in terms of costs, you have to encourage people to think about how can you test your idea? How can you reduce it to a hypothesis where you can test it without huge investment, with minimal investment if possible. And I think this is something key for social innovation. At the same time, I would love to see it being more democratized, right? Because I was actually imagining how would it be. I mean, for me, it would have been amazing. But how would it be if you would teach innovation methods in schools? My life probably would be very different now if I had this in school or even in high school. Maybe universities now have something. I don't know. When I was in university, there wasn't really anything, but at least now it's starting to develop, and I'm really happy to see that. And I think education would be key for democratizing social innovation. At the same time, the relationship with the governments, and I'll give you an example here. In Switzerland, so I live in Geneva. Geneva this year decided to have a program for innovation. And that meant a very, very clear setting. So they said, okay, we're going to allocate 11 million francs for innovation. What are we going to do with that money? They developed a program. It has about 14 different actions. They have 4 clear pillars. One of them is financing. One of them is education, for example. The other 2, I think one is ecosystem, and the other is governance or something related to collaboration. So they have a very clear plan that between 2025 and 2027, they have this pool of money and what they are going to do with it in terms of enabling innovation at a local level. So I would love to see this everywhere. Of course, not all the countries have the resources.
No, I don't believe in that. Sorry. I never saying we don't have the resources to innovate. I don't believe a country, a state, city saying that. I think it's a matter of priority, courage, and it's a matter of being able to try something new that you are most likely going to suck at in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. And as you mentioned it is a matter of priority because for Switzerland, it was clear that, okay, innovation is a priority for us. So, and you can see that with these concrete plans. And imagine, so this plan is available for all citizens. They can access it on the website of the state of Geneva. But not only that, here the entities from the government have open discussions with people where anybody can attend, regardless if you are doing innovation or maybe you're just curious to understand what they're going to do with public money, because it is your money, it's your tax money. And you want to attend the discussion and trying to understand, okay, what are the measures? Do I agree? I'm against it. I'm really looking to understand. So it's an open conversation. But yes, as you said, it's definitely about prioritizing innovation. So,
I heard from you about the importance of having the state institutions, the governments involved in supporting, encouraging, and financing these social innovations. Because this was my next question. I mean, we know where startups go for money, but startups trade a big share of their company and future profits. Mm-hmm. Where do social innovation startups get money from?
Yeah, so this is something really hard to do in social innovation. So right now, social innovation actually is being funded or supported through donations, through foundations, through these partnerships, let's say, with organizations. But it's a non-profit sector for the moment. And I think this is how it should be. But the way it gets financed, it's really complicated. I'm still educating myself on that. But what I see so far is a lot of philanthropy involved in social innovation, because otherwise things are really not moving. And what I found, again, these are estimates, but it looks like out of all the people employed in the world, about 20% have access to innovation or to corporate innovation. That means that 80% are actually outside of corporate innovation. So the rest of this 80%, it could be accessed through social innovation. So 80% of the people could actually be part of social innovation. And the estimation on the market, I really couldn't find a lot of reports. There was only one report that I was able to find. And the estimates there is that corporate innovation is estimated to be at about 3 billion right now, but estimated to go to about 9.5 billion until 2030. However, the social innovation market apparently has a potential of 5,000 billion or something like that. And again, this is just a random number, an estimate I was able to find, because there isn't so much research or too much data on the topic. But apparently there is a huge potential. There are huge opportunities on the social innovation side that we're currently maybe not taking into consideration, or we're just not seeing them. But because we're not seeing them, that doesn't mean that it's not there.
Okay. So there's a huge potential. We got that.
Definitely.
Probably what we need is more people tapping into that potential somehow. What would be a roadmap? Just to close with something that's very actionable. Your story is extremely inspiring. I'm sure that anyone listening to our episode and having some ideas on social innovation get a lot of inspiration. But let's say for people that haven't thought about it, but maybe will think about it, what would be a roadmap? Where do you start? How do you enter this domain of social innovation?
Mm-hmm. So I don't have an ideal advice, let's say, but from my experience and from all of the work I did in both corporate innovation and social innovation, I would say to always start with the problem and not the solution. Because even if you have an idea for a solution, if you're focused on that, it might not work. So understand the people or the community that you want and you're trying to help, and always co-create with them. Be open-minded would be the second thing. So always be open-minded in order to validate the need, because being open-minded will help you actually validate the real need that is in the market. Because maybe, your problem, yes, it's there, but what is the urgency? Are you able to understand that and really dissect it? And then I would say another thing is to build a support system. This is very important. I have a support system. I have several mentors. One of them is dedicated for my social innovation project. So he's not advising me on anything else but this specific social innovation project. And he's part of my system. I also have my some of my friends and some of my family, people that whenever I go to, they will encourage me. And this is very important because it leads me to my next point, to keep your heart in the game. And with social innovation, because you don't really have all the magical resources, you don't really have maybe a process for social innovation or a system that works in your country or in the place that you're starting. It's really important to fuel that internal motivation. And sometimes, yes, you have bad days, you have a bad week or a bad month, and this support system will help you. And when you forget why you started, always go back to the initial motivation. So, you know, why was your instinct on this social innovation project in the first place? So always go back to that, because otherwise I think it's very easy to lose motivation as you go, and to just give up. And then, yeah, find creative funding is I would say it's also part of the roadmap. Explore everything: grants, pitch competitions, crowdfunding. I also had a campaign that didn't raise all the money that I asked for, but it's a really good experience. And any potential partnerships that you can find along the way. And then, yeah, the last one would be to measure and adapt. So always measure where you are, look at the progress, see what you have learned until that point, and then adapt. Reiterate, redesign, maybe reprototype if you need to. But yeah, keep yourself flexible and adaptable to all the changes that are going to come, because change is inevitable.
Antonia, thank you from the heart for this episode. It's been such a nice walk through your journey and your experience. I really loved everything that you shared from your background and your history, your stories about Vodafone and other companies you work for, and of course, most importantly, you're on the social innovation. I really hope you opened the door and you will open also the minds of people who are looking for meaning in life. I think this is an excellent way to materialize what we start thinking about probably in our 40s. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Well, if you want to leave something behind, just go ahead and start a social innovation initiative. I heard a lot of things about mission, about solving a problem, about support groups. I did not hear you have to be extremely rich to start that. So don't put that as a barrier that you're not extremely rich. Yes, you need funding, but most importantly, I think the most important funding system is your core belief in doing something meaningful for the society, your support group,
Mm-hmm.
course, the money, which are important to get that to scale.
Yes, and thank you so much for giving me the space to share all of this. And I really hope that I was able to inspire other people to start their own social innovation project, because my intention is really to empower people to think of themselves as being innovative, as having enough creativity to make innovation happen and to make it a reality.
Well, House of Innovation is the platform where people can come and can talk about what they do in the work of innovation. And now you've just opened it up for social innovation as well. So thank you, Antonia. Good luck.
Awesome.
Forward to
Thank you.
see how this unfolds in the future. And you're always
Thank
welcome.
you. Will do, and hopefully see you next time.